We've been talking a lot over the last few weeks about gun violence in America. The deaths of 20 children and 6 teachers and administrators in Newtown, Connecticut. And the nearly 20 young black innocent bystanders killed by gun violence every 40 days. The president has promised to introduce legislation this month to combat gun violence. But some of, or even most of, the problems start in our own homes. It's how we raise our children, especially our boys. I took this problem to Dr. Steve Perry, host of Save My Son, shown right here on TV One, and Dr. Chuck Williams, an adolescent psychotherapist at Drexel University in Pennsylvania. How do we start the discussion with our brothers, nephews, aunts, within our families? Because at the end of the day, we could talk about public policy, we could talk about in terms of what happens on the macro level. I still believe that this really is a one-by-one, household by household, street by street, block by block, neighborhood by neighborhood, city by city sort of movement.
We have to start having honest conversations about the African Americans' homophobia and sexism.
Right.
Because the reason why we don't want our sons to be seen as soft is because we don't want people to think they're homosexuals. We have so many mothers who don't want their children to be seen as girl-like. And so there's this challenge. And then there aren't men in the homes or in these young men's lives who can say to them, I love you. One of the things that blows my mind when I work with kids is when a man comes up, a black man comes up to a little black boy and says, I love you. Kids just, what did you just, why would you just, what do you?
You know what, I think even if you don't even use I love you, I spoke at an 8th grade graduation. And what I did was, whenever I finished speaking at graduations, I'll actually shake the hand of every graduate. A lot of people who will speak, they'll just go sit down and leave. I said, no, I want to do that. And I can tell you 95%, especially the girls, 95% of the folks I would shake their hand, they couldn't look me in the eye. They even were stunned at the level of just saying, hey, congratulations. And I leaned over to Father Flager in Chicago. It was an 8th grade graduation. I said, Doc, you got a serious problem with intimacy and love among these black kids because they didn't even know how to react even to a hug.
And by the way, that gets to one of my areas of research, which is social skills, social and emotional skills. One of the things I'm doing in Philadelphia with Drexel University and the Stoneleaf Foundation is starting mentoring programs focused on at-risk youth, in-risk youth, however you want to talk about it, to teach them those skills. So you're right, Roland, they do not possess those skills. And it's not just about being able to say, I love you, or I appreciate that, or thank you. That's also connected to academic achievement, as Dr. Perry can tell you. We have to challenge these age-old cultural traditions about what it means to be black, what it means to be male, and just give out the statistics like you just did. You know, the #1 killer of black and Latino teens is violence, is homicide.
And I do want people watching to understand that this is not a question of education or income. Because, and the reason I'm saying that is because we see this level of violence in our fraternities. So all of a sudden, you'll be at a party, no, man, you ain't gonna break our line, or you disrespected. I was at Texas A&M, and they put on, there was a play, and in the play was the story of a running back who injured his knee, blew a pro career. We had football players on campus who thought we were talking about the star running back who injured his knee, and it led to a fight at the party. And I'm sitting there going, bruh, he ain't the only running back who blew a knee and passed the career.
I went to a college, and they had a charity basketball game. A charity basketball game where one group of black men, fraternity, another group of black men, fraternity, end up in an all-out blood-producing brawl. And I sat down with the kids at the campus. I said, are you serious? First of all, most of y'all can't fight. Most of y'all never even been in a fight. You came to college to fight. So why are you putting on this costume of a thug when I will drop your behind off right outside these college walls and you will get hurt?
Right.
Like you'll walk around and be treated like something you don't want to be treated like. So why you gonna come here and act like that? Be beautiful, be bold, be black.
And that's important because the research shows that you ain't got just to be in the south side of Chicago or North Philly where I'm from. Even in the suburbs where there are resources and opportunities, you're right. We have the same issues with achievement, with violence. Again, no matter where I am, in order to be legitimately black and male, I got to be aggressive and a knucklehead. And we got to tell them, you know, that's not where you want to go if you want to have a career like Roland Martin or Dr. Steve Perry.
So part of it also, again, when you talk about beyond just what we look at in terms of our communities, it also, what are we projecting on television? What are we projecting in terms of what we're seeing? Because I tell people, literally, I mean, I've had people say, man, I know sometimes when you're on TV and you're debating folks, you just want to reach over and slap them. I said, no, there's nothing that hurts more than a rhetorical beating.
That's right.
But there's
That's
that
right.
too. But one of the things that I have to own, and even as I was at work this morning in the hood, I have to own the fact that what we represent so often seems so far and so distant from so many of our young people. Their lack of access to us makes us seem to be in a place where they can't get to. So they look up, and it's like when you lose in a race by so much, you think, man, forget about that. You just won.
Right.
When the images that seem most accessible are not this.
Right.
But something different, but feels the same way, this feels the same power, then that's one of the reasons why the kids go there. We, those of us who have more, can do more. I'll say this, for instance. So many fraternities, sororities, and civil service organizations will spend the entire year planning a banquet so they can order chicken cordon bleu, go to some white establishment, and only people who make money off of the event is the hotel. Versus taking that same amount of time, and it has to at this point be either or, take that same amount of time and money and engage young people in meaningful mentoring opportunities. Just in the same way we do host families, we could do host families domestically. Someone, and I know you've adopted families, and I laud you for that. Someone can adopt.
6 of them.
Right. Someone can adopt kids. And when I say adopt, I don't mean full-on, full-scale adoption. But you can invite a kid to a middle-class home. I hadn't been in a middle-class home until I owned one.
I think images are important, which is why we need stations like TV One and your show, and not some of the other ones. I won't say any names. I think that part of the issue is at a very young age. When I did behavioral health, right, I would go to homes where we had kids had drug problems, they were dropped out of school, beating up their mom, all the stuff that we all know about. And I would see the younger one sitting in front of the TV, watching Rush Hour 3, for example. Now, I like it. I'm an adult, though. I can understand reality, you know what I mean, versus fiction. But they're looking at all of these images put out there by us, particularly on black radio, black music radio.
Yeah, black music radio, which is not black owned. But
Right,
go ahead with
exactly. Another issue, but
I
we're
got
working
you,
on
I
it.
got
Maybe
you.
the three of us will get together and buy something. But anyway, so what they hear and what they see is contradictory to everything that we're saying. It's like we're trying to push this rock up this hill, and they're coming down. They got snow, they got rain, we shouldn't give up, but we need to hold them accountable. We don't do that enough. So how are you going to put on a, Maybach music, Rick Ross, all gunplay, gun violence, and then during the commercial, put down the gun, stop the violence. Kids are like, what?
Taking shout-outs from prison.
Right. And
The whole
I still
time.
love...
And again, I want people to understand, and I do this all the time, this is not about attacking hip-hop culture. It's about attacking videos. But I do, because I remember years ago, I literally saw a 50 Cent magazine ad where he was selling his clothes, and the scene was a drug lab.
No.
His clothes were wrapped as if they were kilos.
No. Take right now. He and Joan Rivers have a commercial together in which he looks like it's a drug deal, and he's selling a 5-hour energy drink.
What about another one? How about the time he put his son out on stage in a flap jacket? He had one, he put one on his son. What kind of message is that?
Very often what I find is a lot of cats who we're speaking about have never had someone themselves, just because they're grown physical men. A lot of professional athletes, a lot of these rappers who I meet, nobody's ever said to them, bro, you could do something different. I was on stage in Florida A&M with Wale. And people were saying, we want more positivity in your lyrics. He said, buy it then. I got positive songs.
Right.
You don't pay for them. So you tell me that you want me to do this. I want to do it for a living. I can't make a living if you won't pay for it.
Which is the same, of course, that when you talk about quality television shows, when you look at what do we watch as opposed to what we don't watch. At the end of the day, you can't keep trying to say we want to aspire to this, but then I want to live in the gutter, and then say, man, I don't know why I'm living, why other people living in the gutter, you're actually living in it as well. And so this is why I keep going back to mindset, because again, this is not about public policy. This really is about you passing a mindset on to the next generation.
3 things, Roland. Family, faith, community. You don't need public policy for that. You don't need to go to the government and get, some grant to say I love you to your son, or to be home with them. We got brothers that spend more time in the barbershop than they do with their kids. You don't need a grant for that.
One of our biggest challenges. One of our biggest challenges is our ownership of what we've done to create these circumstances. We have to own that we as a community are perpetuating the most vile stereotypes because it's one thing to act like a fool. It's an entirely different thing to be a fool.
Right.
And too many of us have owned that as if that is the highest order of African American expression. And we got to do better.